Hey guys, Ziamaro here. Today I'm going to be teaching you the very basics of flying helicopters with the new RotorLib system in ARMA 3. There are a few other great videos around YouTube that will help you fly with RotorLib, which I've linked in the description, but I wanted to create a very basic tutorial for those of you like me who just want to learn how to take off, land and do some basic maneuvers as quickly as possible. Because you're playing games like Epoch or Altis Life where you don't need to be doing any of these military maneuvers, but you just want to start flying around and having some fun. So think of this as a quick start guide, but I highly recommend checking out the other videos in the description afterwards. Now the first thing you want to do is go to ARMA on Steam and click Browse Workshop, and then in the search put in RotorLib Flight School. So you want this one here. And then I've already subscribed here, as you can see, but you'll see it something like this. So just click subscribe and then you're ready to go. So once you get into the game, you'll want to click play and then scenarios, and then you'll see this scenario that you've just subscribed to. So double click on that. It'll load you into this map. Just click continue and then you'll spawn in the airport. And as you can see, there's a bunch of helicopters around here. There's all sorts of different ones that you can try out. The handling of the helicopters changes quite drastically with different weights. So if you've got passengers inside the helicopters, or you're sling loading a tank or a car or anything like that, you'll want to adjust your flying because it's all affected by that. For now, I'm going to be showing you how to fly the Hummingbird, as it's one of the smaller helicopters and it's probably one that you'll see quite often. The first thing that you'll need to learn about with the new system is the collective, which in a real helicopter increases or decreases the pitch of the blades, making the helicopter increase or decrease in lift. You can see the dial just here. If you balance it somewhere in the middle, if the helicopter is completely level, you shouldn't gain or lose altitude. To take off, you want the collective to be just over halfway. So the first thing you'll want to do is orientate yourself to the way that you want to be going. It's a lot easier just as you take off because you're going quite slowly. And I'm just going to show you a quick maneuver here that's very, very useful for turning around quickly. So what you want to do is have the collective somewhere in the middle, as you can see, and then point the nose right up like this, and then you hold the E key and that will turn you back round again, and then you can go back the other way. It's a very easy and useful maneuver to know. So that's probably the easy part of flying a helicopter. So I'm going to show you a little exercise that I've done quite a lot to try and get better at flying, which is finding this motorway here and trying to stay as close to it as possible. Try to keep your altitude as consistent as you can, just skimming all of the trees and any other obstacles on the way. You can adjust the collective to keep your altitude and speed level. It's quite important that you only make small adjustments at a time because the helicopter is very sensitive to any changes. So whenever you're lowering the collective, just, if you imagine it like the face of a clock, only change it by 1 hour at a time. One of the other things that you can practice while you're doing this exercise is landing on the road. Now I would say landing is by far the hardest thing with the new RotorLib system. With the old system you could just chuck auto hover on and then lower yourself with the Z key, and that was much, much easier. But now, you can see, I just hit the ground there. The easiest way to land with RotorLib, I find, is to actually bring yourself into a slide. So what you want to do is slow yourself down, and the way you do that is point your nose upwards and lower the collective, because as you point your nose up, your helicopter is going to gain altitude. So to compensate for that, you're going to want to lower the collective, which will decrease the upward thrust. It's something that you're just going to have to practice. It's not something that I can really explain in a tutorial. It's much, much easier to just try it yourself, because if you explode your helicopter, it really doesn't matter. So as you can see here, I'm lowering myself very gradually, and it is quite fast, but you'll just go into a slide like that. And that's quite an easy way to land. However, it does require quite a big runway or a road. I'm going to show you another landing here. I've chosen this particular spot because if you play Altis Life, this is the most common place for the air garage to be when you want to put your helicopter away again. I find it helps a lot to put down a marker using shift and click. This will help gauge exactly how far away you are from landing. This is another slide landing that I did, and I actually got quite lucky here because I ended up pretty much exactly where I wanted to be. This is the other way that you can land the helicopter without a slide. You'll want to learn how to do this because if you want to land in a much smaller space, then you'll have to land slowly and touch down gently. I find this is a much harder way to land than the slide. If you were used to the old system, you probably remember pressing X to auto hover and then slowly lowering yourself down with the Z key. In this system, it's incredibly hard to do it that way. I find it's much easier to approach the place you want to land from the front, gradually slow yourself down, but actually do a moving landing. Like this. The final landing I'm going to show you is the vertical landing. And in this one, I'm going to be using auto hover just as I come to a standstill to keep me in place. If you look at the middle of the collective dial, you'll see that there's a yellow dot as I put on the auto hover. This type of landing is very good if you want to land in a small spot, but as you can see, I'm having to change the collective quite a lot, so it can be quite fiddly in order to maintain a steady decline. The other issue with this sort of landing is that it can be quite slow compared to the slide landing. It'll take quite a lot of practice to really master this one. Don't be disheartened if it takes you quite a long time to get good at this. It takes a lot of practice and I'm still learning myself, but I thought I would just share some tips with you just to help you get started a little bit quicker than I did. And remember, for every great landing or maneuver that you do, there'll always be a terrible one.